Hello, you're watching MMA Crypt's Fighting Talk. On today's show, we'll be going over 3 rounds of action featuring topics such as Gilbert Melendez signing with Bellator and the GSP Chronicles with Dana White, as well as Round 2, should Dana be cut? And in Round 3, we'll give our quick UFC 170 picks. Filling in for Gregory Stone this time, I'm Matt Wolfley, aka MMA Guru, and joining me today on the show is Brian Hunt and Greg Marshall. How are you guys doing this morning?
Excellent.
Not bad this evening.
Evening for you. Thanks for joining me.
No problem.
Alright, so in round 1, we've got Gilbert Melendez signing with Bellator. There's been a lot of controversy as far as the UFC offers, potentially being, $75,000 less than what his Strikeforce contract was. Brian, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a twofold. I don't know what the approach is, and I'm not sure if this deal's final yet. I know UFC had a certain amount of days to match the offer, but I look at what some of the heavyweights made, and any of you guys recall what Frank's making? I thought it was close to $200K.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, so I look at Frank at 200, and I look at Gil at 200, and that's a pretty easy choice right there. It's like, okay, so I'm at a loss. I look at maybe the UFC trying to approach this as an affliction type of way of letting Bellator, giving them enough rope to hang themselves, and if they're spending too much money to justify their shows, they're going to go away. And I think Bellator is approaching that very quickly. But I also look at it that Bellator now has 3 of the top 10 lightweights out there. And that's a good statement. But that's still only maybe 2 fights a year between the 3 guys. I mean, that's not... with that tournament style, it doesn't really make a lot of great fights between them. So you can't. It's not a three-way round robin that they can keep fighting and fighting and fighting each other. They will build other guys, but I don't know. Dana can't say we're the top thing anymore because they're not willing to pay the top dollar for the top fighters. Now, does Dana go through and start bashing Gilbert Melendez? Well, he's not a top guy. He lost to Ben Henderson, and I don't know. So I'm up in the air. Time will tell on this one. I'm not. I don't agree with it. If the UFC is the top dog, they should sign the top fighters. And not being able to get an Alvarez and a Chandler because their contract tied, that's one thing. But now you're letting a top 3 guy go away, and that never looks good.
Right. Now, I know I read, and I'm paraphrasing, but I know I read that in the negotiations, Gilbert made an offer, and Dana White essentially told him to pound sand and to look for offers elsewhere. And I know, Blue, you probably saw that as well. What do you think the motivation was for Dana White to not accept such a high offer and to counter with such a low offer?
I think kind of, yeah. Dana's obviously trying to get Gil on as low a deal as he possibly can. I can't believe he would have thought Bellator wouldn't have offered him good money. It seems a strange one to me that he thought that Gil would just disappear and come back a couple of weeks later and say, yeah, I'll take whatever you can give me now. The biggest problem they've got there is that Gilbert was on an existing Strikeforce contract, so he's the highest paid fighter on the lightweight roster by quite a distance, almost, well, more or less double what the next highest is, which is Ben Henderson. So you can see where they're coming from, wanting to bring him down. But like Brian said, Frank Mir is on 200,000 a fight. He's not even a top 10 guy anymore. Josh Barnett's on nearly 200,000 a fight. He's not a top 5 guy. Gilbert Melendez is a legit top 3 guy. You've got to pay your top talent well, whether they're heavyweight or lightweight.
Right, and I can see arguments on both sides as far as the fight excitement, but that goes back to our last show when we talked about whether or not throwing money at our more exciting fighters was really respecting the sport and keeping the sport pure. So going from that with Dana's interactions in that respect to how the entire situation with GSP has gone, with them essentially kind of jockeying back and forth about GSP being crazy and essentially Dana having things about his situation that cannot be said. As far as the genuine things that come out in the press, what would you say, Greg, would be probably the more root of the truth between the two of them?
No clue, to be honest. It'd be good if there could be a kind of meeting of the minds and actually tell the truth, so we could find out exactly what the problem is. It's a tough one. Again, a lot of people just judge it on who they like the most, and that makes it difficult as well. And the media tend to write it that way as well. Looking from the outside, Dana's said a lot of things about GSP that he shouldn't have, though. That much is a given. He is too quick to say something sometimes. He responds to a problem too quickly, and don't get me wrong, he says what he means, which isn't a bad thing, but he sometimes needs to take a step away and think about what he says, and then maybe we will get a more true reflection of what's going on.
Absolutely. I know that GSP has made mention of conditions or circumstances that aren't able to be made public, and I believe Dana has kind of mentioned the same thing regarding situations with George St-Pierre specifically that haven't been made public. So there's definitely some things going on there. Does that, Brian, this one's for you, does that make the UFC somewhat unapproachable then if Dana is continuing to respond publicly, possibly even inappropriately, and he seemed to take a voice in areas that don't necessarily seem to be his position? Does that create an unapproachable situation for the UFC as a whole?
I think so. I think Dana has carte blanche to say whatever he wants to say. And so he can call GSP a little faggot, and not that he has, but he could say that and be fine doing so in his position. But yet 3 weeks later he can say, well, he's still the best middleweight in the world or best welterweight in the world. That's why we're going to sign him, or he's still a great guy. Blah, blah, blah. But if GSP said that about Dana White, there's no end to it. I mean, Dana's going to be so butthurt about it, he'll carry it on forever. So it's not an open door policy. He is clearly not approachable. He handles it. He handles conflict how I would do if I'm shit-faced at a bar with a whole bunch of testosterone in me. And it's never a good situation. He's too volatile in his position, and a guy like GSP doesn't deal with that. He wants to talk, and he can't say anything because anything he says is used against him. And if he has any desire to fight for the best organization in the world, he can't say what's on his mind right now. Not to Dana.
Exactly. And that's kind of the concern with all these discussions is, while they seem to be, needing the kind of discussion that Blue is talking about, where they sit down and have a discussion in private, Dana continues to seem to want to make it public, where there's some respect, but almost some acts of cynical nature on either side in regard to that.
All right, and in round 2, we discuss, should Dana White be cut or not? And I'm not really sure where to stand anymore.
Me either.
I've been a pretty pro UFC guy, and I guess the reason that I'm not sure where to stand is because I look at these things and I think this could go one direction or the other, but dramatically that way. It's not just a middle of the road, oh, this is a nice thing, we'll look and see how this falls. No, it's either going to be really good or really bad, specifically related to GSP, related to the uniforms. I'm not really sure, man.
Yeah, I have so many fucking issues with Dana White right now, and I don't want to turn into a sure dog guy. Most of the guys that are sure dog, or a true Dana White hater is a pride apologist.
Right.
And I am not a Pride apologist. Yes, I liked Pride, but I always felt the UFC was a better organization, so I'm not one of those guys that's fucking all... Like the Masasi guys came out of the woodworks. Oh, we can finally see that who the better... They're still carrying that fucking Pride banner. I'm like, oh my God, get the fuck over it. But I'm not that person, and I am turning into such an anti-Dana White guy. I really... His little fucking episode at the conference, Blue gave me a link of it. Well, oh, you guys name me one fighter that fucking is on steroids, and I'll fucking call him up. Like, that's not the reporter's job.
Yeah,
I mean,
hell yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and as soon as the reporter does that, boom, they just cut off their nose because they're not going to get another fucking interview.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, look at Ariel. He got booted for Fox.
Yeah.
What happened? What's the story behind that?
I think it was to do with Ariel getting an interview with Bellator or something like that for MMA fighting, and Dana didn't like it, so he just got rid of him. Just told him to get rid.
Huh.
It's fucking pathetic.
So
like the guy's an MMA journalist. He's supposed to do these things.
He's not a UFC journalist. He doesn't work for the UFC. He's an MMA. Yep. Oh God.
You know, I think about... So, I'll finish my thought. I don't understand why they have him being a public relations guy when... You know, I think of other big companies. You know how many times I've heard the CEO of Google say anything? You know, you're hearing Google release public statements through their public relations department, and you're hearing, you know, you're hearing occasional interviews, maybe, but they're not, you know, they're not at the end of every, you know, big announcement or anything like that. I don't understand why they have Dana still so much in the spotlight when I think the sport's pretty substantiated. I mean, it's kind of where I never thought it would be ever. You know what I mean?
I think you got it there when you say still in the spotlight. He needed to be there early on because he was pushing and pushing, but the sports or the companies moved on so much that he should be taking a bit more of a back door, a back seat. But you notice that Lorenzo's taking more of a front kind of role these days. I've got a feeling Dana's going to eventually get pushed a wee bit to the side soon, and Lorenzo's going to take total control.
Well, and I think when it in lights that actually matter, I would much rather see that. To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't mind seeing Dana relegated to the Ultimate Fighter, the tough shows, stuff like that, where that gets ratings, and Dana's a ratings guy, and that's good. That was good for a long time. It's no longer good. It's a lot of negative press, and I don't sincerely know all the details between him and GSP, but it has become very personal. Instead of just being about stuff that's wrong in the UFC, it also still seems a little bit personal between those two, and that's not the kind of thing that I want on USA Today or on ESPN.com, or you know what I mean? I just I don't understand that.
The thing I can't figure out is why GSP's still an employee of Zuffa. Why have they not got him in and said, right, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what the problem is and let's get it sorted.
Well,
I can't understand that.
I think there's a certain degree on both sides of, I'm going to sit down here in my suit and my tie, and I'm going to say everything you want to hear on both sides, not just GSP's. I'm going to say everything you want to hear, and then as soon as we walk out of this boardroom, what's said there stayed there, and I don't think anybody's actually being completely honest. Am I completely ignorant to think that?
No, I wouldn't have
You
thought
got to
so.
be careful. I mean, you piss off Dana, and you don't have a job. I mean,
GSP gets away with it because he's such a big draw.
Yeah, but Ben Askren doesn't. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I have to wonder how many of the opinions Dana has are shared by the Fertittas, though, because I share that same opinion without the hatred that it seems Dana has.
One kind of instance you've got that is made that their thoughts are different is when GSP made those statements about no drug testing and things like that. Dana went on a rant calling him a fucking idiot and whatever, and Lorenzo came out and said, George, get in contact, we need to talk.
Right.
So there's a definite disparity between the two of their thoughts there right away. Lorenzo said, they didn't realise you thought that way, get in contact, we need to talk. Whereas Dana told him he was a fucking idiot.
Alright, and that'll do it for round 2. Round 3, quick UFC 170 picks. UFC 170 is February 22nd, Mandalay Bay Event Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. For the first fight, Rory McDonald versus Damian Maia. Brian, what is your pick there?
My pick is for kind of maybe an unexciting fight, which is kind of disappointing. I'm gonna lean towards Maia. That might be wishful thinking on my part, but I'm gonna go with Maia being the more aggressive guy. Maybe not necessarily fighting better, but selling the fight a little bit better and appearing to be more active. And I know Edgar kind of won some fights that way, and I'm kind of hoping maybe Maia can pull that off this way. Is just looking better in the fight, and which isn't that hard to do. But Rory's got some mad skills, but super conservative lately. So going Maia decision.
Okay, Greg.
I'll go the opposite. I'll go Rory. I still think it'll be a fairly boring fight of sorts, and I think it'll be similar to the Jake Shields Damian Maia fight, where Rory will just do enough to scrape a win, maybe even by split decision again. I see Rory's talking that he's going to throw a bit of caution to the wind. I doubt it though.
So you've got McDonald.
McDonald decision.
All right. I'm personally going to go with Maia. I think Maia has a little bit to prove here. Came into the division and kind of went nuts, and he's been a little lackluster as of late. So I think Maia's got something to prove, and I think he's going to come out and do it. Next fight's going to be Daniel Cormier versus Patrick Cummins. A lot of controversy in this fight, and also Cummins taking the fight on short notice. Brian, what's your pick there?
I got to go DC. I think Daniel's going to win second round. I think he's going to take it easy kind of on the first round, more because it's going to look really bad if he gets knocked the fuck out in the first round against a nobody. Right. But I think he's going to kind of start at a slow pace. I think he wants a round or two at this new weight class. So despite being angry and pissed off at the guy, I don't think he's going to railroad him. I think he's more than capable of doing it. But I'm going to go DC knockout against PC round 2.
Greg?
I agree with knockout, but I don't think he'll go easy on him or take it easy to start with. I think it'll be a first round finish, quite easy, no difficulty at all.
Plenty of emotion.
Yeah.
And I think I'll have to take that same call. I think DC is going to take it in the first round with lots of emotion. As much as Patrick is a dangerous fighter in that he has nothing to lose, he's going to be coming out, I think, throwing caution to the wind. But I still think Daniel takes him easily. So, and then our final fight, Ronda Rousey versus Sarah McMahon. Brian, what's your pick there?
Heart says Sarah. Logic says first round armbar Rousey. But Sarah's not going to dive into a neutral position like Misha did. I mean, she did that over and over. Okay, dive into a neutral position, get my ass taken down. Sarah's takedowns go through the person. So if she can get on top of her, we haven't really seen a whole lot of Ronda on her back. So, but still, it's Ronda Rousey and it's an armbar win. But no, I'll be rooting for Sarah. So we'll say Ronda armbar second round.
All right, Blue.
Again, much the same kind of reasoning. I think Ronda first round armbar. We don't know what Ronda will be like if she gets someone of the level of Sarah McMahon on top of her. If that happens, something could change, could be different. I just can't see it. I think Ronda will get in, clinch with her, throw her down, get on top, and find her way to the armbar.
I think I'm also going to probably lean Ronda's direction. However, with them both having Olympic caliber skills, Ronda clearly using that judo to get herself to a spot where she can grab that armbar. I'm kind of hoping that Sarah McMahon has the ability to avoid said takedowns and also positions that would get her in trouble. But Ronda's very good at what she does. I honestly haven't seen Sarah McMahon fight too many times, but I know she's a great wrestler. So it's going to be a tough fight, I think, but I still see Ronda pulling the armbar out, possibly second round. All right, and that's the end of round 3 and the conclusion of another edition of MMA Crypt's Fighting Talk. I'm Matt Wolfley for Gregory Stone. Thanks, Brian and Greg, for joining me this morning.
Blummy.
No problem.
Be sure to check out all the prediction contests and fantasy bookies going on right now for UFC 170, as well as the Fantasy League Season 2 starting March 1st. Get your drafts in now. Thanks, everyone, for watching.